Good morning, everyone. We are back after a long hiatus. We are back with the quarantine series. It's so great to be back. A few of my friends reached out to me yesterday, said, "Why are you coming back?" And I said, "Well, there's been a lot of good movies that have been made, a lot of great movies that have been made, and this is the reason we're back, because we want to feature and put the spotlight on incredible artists." We've done over 115 episodes through the Quarantine Concert Series and the Quarantine Film Series. And I'm not sure if we're going to get into a regular time slot as we were before. This is more as we, opportunistic as we meet great filmmakers and directors. So again, this is the Quarantine Series. Let me give you a little backstory. We started this back in March after so many gigs had been canceled, after so many concerts had been canceled, and also the film festivals have been canceled. And it's kind of hard to generate the buzz and get the interest in the films and the concerts when the creative calendar's gone. So this effort was created in earnest to put the spotlight where it belongs on filmmakers and incredibly talented people. So with that, I want to kind of kick it off with our show, our incredible guest. This artist, this filmmaker, he's an incredible auteur. He is a comedy writer, a comedy director, script writer based in Los Angeles and London, two nations, man without a country, man without borders. Commonly known for comedy genre and creative concepts, his high energy performances veer into fantasy and action movie satire. He began his career, he cut his chops at Ridley Scott Associates for a decade, directing commercials and music videos. He now finds himself at home in short and feature-length narrative and documentary work. He's known for many things, but among his works, Action Man, Battlefield, Casualties, and You Cannot Kill David Arquette, which is a new film. So please welcome to the show the incredibly talented and capable maestro himself, Price James. Welcome.
Hello, what a segue.
Yeah. Good to see you.
It's cutting to me after the word talent is it's a fine line, I guess. Interpretable. How's it going? You're right, mate.
Good. I'm in Atlanta. You're in where? You're in LA today?
I'm in LA. Yeah, that's the early '80s LA cliche director garb. And look, yes. check out my merch.
You're right on brand. You Cannot Kill David Arquette.
I'm pushing this shit hard, man. Can I swear?
You just did, so I think.
Okay, sorry, kids.
No, it's cool.
Your parents probably say this constantly.
No, it's cool. Tell me first. I also want to ask this first. How's the quarantine affected you? What did you have lined up that you had to cancel, or how's life been different under the quarantine?
Oh, mate, what a long story. So the main issue was I got dumped by my girlfriend 1 week before quarantine, kicked out in real time in LA. And I'll start with the optimism and positivity. So that was interesting. Then kind of sort of scrambled. Friends were in Miami on holiday. They said, "Dad, take our apartment." So I took an apartment, thinking they'd be back in a few weeks. They came back. Quarantine dropped. We got locked in for 3 months. That's my flatmate in the background. So I got locked in. Basically, became a sort of British refugee. And we had our film was finished. Our You Cannot Kill David Arquette movie was finished, and luckily it was finished because everyone's been stuck in post-production now. But we had that, so we were waiting for a sale. We were meant to be at South by Southwest, then they canceled South by, so it was a chain of events, and mainly, I guess, quarantine was battling temporary alcoholism and depression, like most people.
Well, I appreciate your honesty, and I hear it's been a tough go of it for you and for many folks.
Yeah, so, totally.
I wanted to ask you, and kind of talking about, I don't know about dark topics or difficult topics. Your film Action Man, Battlefield, Casualties really spoke to me. As you know, as I was mentioning in the pre-interview, I'm a veteran myself, and so it really spoke to me. Talk to me about why you wanted to create this particular film.
Well, the Action Man film was based on a series of toys created by the artist Darren Cullen, who I've known for over a decade. He was a drummer in a band called Bleep Disco. I've already said it. Shit Disco is the name. They're assigned to a major label, so their name was out there. So the first music video I made that kind of got me noticed was got me signed to Ridley Scott Associates from MySpace, showing my age. was Shit Disco OK. He was the drummer. He became an amazing sort of satirist, and we've been working together for years. So I initially saw his toys, the Action Man sort of satirical toys, and at his gallery, and I said, look, man, these would be an amazing film. He said, yeah, I totally agree. I've been thinking about that as well. We'll work together. He wrote the voiceover script. I went into action and I managed to get Matt Berry, who's basically my hero, from Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, The It Crowd, and now what we do in the shadows. He voiced it, and he's like a hero. He's the perfect voice. And I guess it was such an important topic as far as the sort of, veterans being kind of once their purpose has been fulfilled, being completely forgotten. And I guess that was the kind of the overriding message of the series. Obviously, it was 3 commercials that kind of create a sort of narrative arc. Each commercial was an arc in itself, or a first, second, and third act. And yeah, that kid is great. He looks like Fred Savage. That's why he was cast. I was like, he looks like the guy in the Wonder Years. So it was kind of it was great working with all the kids, because most of their parents were so on board, even though it's such a dark kind of subject and context. We made sure they were kind of protected and as much as we could do, and their parents were always on set. So when we weren't being too sadistic with the kiddies.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. It is kind of jarring to see the sort of the innocence of the child with the gruesomeness of the action figures and what you're doing. What was the response among the veteran community?
I mean, basically super positive. We were very, very apprehensive about that. But we knew that we were protected by satire laws in the UK and America. So we could use the Action Man brand, which is basically G.I. Joe, but for the European market. And it's a kind of classic, it's a classic toy that was used by people's dads and granddads. But as far as the veterans, yeah, it was completely positive. We knew that the subject was a deeply sort of like, the tone was obviously comedic, but all the messages were like grounded in absolute sort of factual reality. So that every the sort of veterans receiving disability benefits, and then them canceling those benefits, having to go back to work. These are all real kind of real sort of subjects that were in the news. So it was basically just putting to the front like these real questions and doing it with a sort of subversive tone. But yeah, most of in the YouTube, we're at 5 million plus, 6 million plus views for a short film now on YouTube, which is kind of amazing. I think we got bundled in with like Robot Chicken and like a bunch of other sort of comedy network stuff. And so people are like, what the hell? Why am I here? This is ruining my childhood. But then ultimately, I think most of people's messages are super positive, especially from veterans. And it was for a charity, Veterans for Peace. So we knew that from the outset we had the backing of and they funded it, and they loved it. They were like, I'm glad that you can throw some light and some humor on something that we all go through. And to me, as a sort of like a stupid comedian director guy, I think if we can't laugh at laughter, it's a cliche, but laughter is the best healing, man. So yeah, I fully believe in that.
Talk to us a little bit about the craft of making it, the cameras you worked with, how long the shoot cycle was.
It was pretty fast. I mean, I had an amazing producer called Mickey Pearlman, who I still work with in London. She's fantastic. We had a 3-day shoot. It was 1 day per ad. And it was more the pre-production that was difficult. So our art directors, our budget was tiny. I can't even disclose what it was. It was pretty embarrassing because I'm trying to I don't want to undervalue everything I do, but it was done very, very cheap, like most charity ads. And yeah, 3-day shoot. Casting was an issue because, a lot of children's casting directors were like, what the hell is this? Because I sort of storyboarded it and I had a deck that was very detailed and very upfront. We weren't trying to hide anything. There's obviously a noose scene, a dismembered kind of RoboCop gore obliteration scene, so it was pretty heady stuff. So I guess it was being upfront with everyone from the start. And production took about 3 months in model builds and 3-day shoot. And we shot on 5Ds, very, very cheap, because I knew it was going to be downgraded to VHS ultimately. So we could have the liability, shoot a small kit, smaller lights, make everything tight. We're in a model set, we're at a sort of 5-foot high cyc. Everything was built to scale in sort of previs, with all my stupid stickman drawing as I do. Yeah.
Well, it's a fantastic project, and I encourage everyone to go to YouTube and check it out. I also wanted to ask you about your recent project, which I believe you co-directed. You Cannot Kill David Arquette. So
Yeah, man.
Why that's quite a jump from the short film to this. So how did you make that jump? Why did you want to do this project?
Well, it's funny you mention that, because I actually see the jump is not too far, because they're both the kind of action movie tropes. There's we've got a sort of we've got an underdog soldier. Obviously, the end is slightly more anti-heroic and bleaker in the Action Man, but it still always follows that same kind of that kind of hero's journey, as it were, which is something I'm really interested in. I'm a huge sucker for all the early Spielberg, John Landis, Paul Verhoeven. That's kind of my wheelhouse. I basically saw very, very adult films way too young. I remember being 9 years old and watching. I saw Who Framed Roger Rabbit at the cinema on the Thursday. On the Saturday night, we had a babysitter who let us watch Beetlejuice, Predator, and RoboCop. So within 3 days, I saw the films that pretty much set my taste for my entire career, which is hilarious. So basically talk about, Arquette deals with a lot of Peter Pan syndrome. I definitely have that syndrome. And I think if you can't work in something that makes you happy, then what's the point, But yeah, as far as the jump from Action Man to You Cannot Kill David Arquette, it's in that sort of world of Americana sort of action movie tropes, war films, retro sports action movies as well. And basically, we were approached by Arquette. He wanted to make a straight doc, and that was something that I was like, well, can we subvert the idea of a documentary? And so even though the object was to follow it sort of first person objectively, as far as like a documentary protagonist, the execution of editorial was something that I was very, very adamant that should be we should make it an entertaining, retro, a sort of action movie in itself. But leaning on tropes like movies like Rocky, Karate Kid, all the sort of John Alverson movies, and sort of weaving in that sort of real life documentary, which is where my buddy Doug, my co-director, came in. He's so good at his camera directing is unsurpassed, whereas I'm more about blocking dialogue, creating visuals, because of my music video background. So, and I guess knowing what we need from a scene because of my writing background. Because we're hitting sort of tropes, it was really important to be aware of those tropes, knowing that, if he's running on a beach, it's going to be a moment of self-internalization of and to run and to scream as he lifts his head up in sort of triumphant, glory, knowing that we had to get those moments more than anything, even being passive. So occasionally, like all documentarians, you sort of lead the witness a little bit, but as I say, it was a documentary, but we're heavily leaning on the sort of the action movie tropes, and I think that's what shows in the film. I know you can't rent it outside America, which is very annoying for everyone watching this. But if you are in America, it's available on Amazon, all the big platforms. So please, and we had a good opening night last night. It's very, very crazy to be. We're on Rotten Tomatoes in between a Marvel movie and Bill and Ted, and we're there, and we're like, okay, we're this tiny little stupid from the outset, a vanity bluff piece, but actually once you watch it and you commit, I think the response is quite positive as far as. Holy shit, I did not expect to care so much for this guy who I saw in a movie called Scream once, 20 years ago. And I think that's testament to kind of, Arquette's likability and me and Doug kind of gelling perfectly in sort of comedy and drama.
I do want to ask about the release and your drive-in release and everything. But first I want to just ask more about the film itself and ask you the same question on the craft. And as you're co-directing it, what kind of cameras did you shoot on? What was the process like? And actually, what was the production process like? And what was the post-production process like?
Well, we shot on the Canon C300s with prime lenses, super mobile. And occasionally when we had a wrestling event, we would get additional shooters to help. But pretty much myself and Doug shot everything he would either be on David and I'm like blocking things around him, or we're on 2-camera, or for the sort of third act where it gets a little more dark and Dag was unavailable, I was there because it was more about access to David, really. So his wife, Christina Arquette, was an amazing producer and would just give us the hotline call. Like, once that alarm went off and she's like, okay, David's doing this. I'd just be like Uber, immediately rigging the camera in the Uber and just make sure we're there to get anything like extra crazy. Or we would suggest things and then that would kind of weave into his schedule, which is a lot of the sort of second and third act. Once the fantasy begins, his kind of him immersing himself into his fantasy world, it was important to just kind of I guess get there, get it on camera, really.
Right.
But and also technical editorial was a long time. We had 240 hours. I cut with Paul Rogers at Parallax, who's like my boy. They cut Beyonce's Lemonade, and they did lots of music videos. They work with the Daniels, who did Swiss Army Man, and their new movie, which sounds, I can't talk about it, but their new movie sounds amazing. It's like a kind of like kung fu time travel extravaganza.
I want to see that one.
Amazing.
Shane, who produces this, and me, we're music producers. So I always love to ask about the music. Talk to me about the soundtrack and the sound part of this.
Well, the soundtrack that's something that I was super. I knew that the soundtrack had to kind of have a sort of life of its own, and regardless of score and emotional moments, which is something that me and Dag definitely worked together on. As far as the sort of the more genre-leaning sequences, just getting like, I mean, it was all quite personal. So like a bunch of my mum's favorite. My mum passed away, but a bunch of like my mum's favorite music's in there, like Carly Simon, The Last Kiss, which we had sung in Spanish for a luchador sequence. So there's a lot of pop music. We've got Limp Bizkit in there. It's fucking amazing. I mean, there's like some serious sort of like not ironic, but yeah, ironic. I mean, use of music, which delivers sort of energy and fun, but also when you look at it from a different perspective, you go, "Oh, it's very 2000." David is very 2000, and it's sort of like a lot of parallels. But the music, I mean, it would have been a dream to have a sort of soundtrack released on vinyl or something. But I mean, and also we're still trying to push to release the film on like a limited edition VHS, because I think that would be a really cool way to get collectors on board, because it's very much that kind of world of like, the Columbia 80s movies.
Yeah, gotcha. I do want to ask about the drive-in premiere. How was that?
Oh man, it's okay. So one of the sort of, I don't know, quarantine is sort of, we're living in this like weird apocalypse. I guess we had to sort of scramble to kind of make something special as far as like drive-ins, or not drive-ins, like a sort of premiere. And it was kind of a bucket list, to be honest. I never would have thought we would have had like a drive-in premiere in my life, but because of the sort of situation and us responding to it, like, how are we going to do this? And it was amazing. We had 170 cars sold out. We nearly sold out the second night. And I guess it ties into sort of the Americana weirdness and eccentricity of the Arquette film and David. The fact that we're in it's a great photo. we hired a sort of 63 Buick, and I had my flatmate Tabitha dressed as a luchador in a sort of like beautiful pink suit with a gold mask, like Santo. He's a very famous Mexican luchador. So yeah, we just had fun with it and tried to make most of it. Turned it into a party, socially distanced. Or also, only hardest part was like no after party to kind of let off some steam. But I guess there's no one's partying unless you're watching the Chainsmokers.
Yeah, I hear you. So where can people find this? You mentioned it. I just want to be clear so everyone knows where they can go. You said Amazon. Is that the best place?
Yeah. Well, it's we're waiting for the sort of the figure. I mean, this is such a Hollywood statement. Like, yeah, we're waiting for first few weeks figures and like the metrics and all this nonsense. But they do have some deals in place for the rest of the world. But right now, you can only watch it in North America and Canada on basically every rental platform: Amazon, Apple TV, YouTube. You can rent it everywhere. It's about $6. Or if you buy it, I'll be able to afford to live during quarantine. So I would urge you to buy it. There are some deleted scenes as well, which are really, really fun. But yeah, so it's North America, available now for rental at all platforms. And yeah, I think we had a good first day yesterday. So we're just trying to like kind of keep the grassroots kind of push going. It's an indie cult film, and if you're into like movies like, you know, Rocky, Napoleon Dynamite, you know, sort of nerdcore sort of action movie tropes, as well as sort of humanitarian emotional documentaries, and things like Tiger King, it's got huge parallels with that, which we were talking about. You know, obviously that was a huge series, but if you like sort of funny and weird and emotional, then it's a good fantasy escapist film, because I think, you know, we're all dealing with stuff at the moment, and why not watch a celebrity get his ass kicked and take ketamine? I mean, you know, it's a no-brainer.
Right. I hear you. Well, look, I encourage everyone to check out this film. Go on Amazon. We want people to buy the film. We want you to live longer, be with us. We think you have a creative, an incredible creative future ahead of you. Do you have anything in the works that you're planning, or anything you can share?
Yeah, well, myself and Dog, we've got some other things we're planning. We have a very, very cool project, which is we were meant to do 2.5 years ago. So the original reason I came out to LA was to do a completely other different film, but then the company couldn't fund it, as it was a narrative movie, and I know it was sort of written, and they were a documentary company, but it's going to be called Shredder, and it's basically Karate Kid with electric guitars and set with an ensemble group of metal kids, and yeah, it's going to be very, very special. So we're just starting production on that. And
I love how all your work has such high like tempo, energy topics.
Yeah, I know. I think that's my life. It's something I lead into. It's hard because you spend your whole career working out what you're into and trying different things, like working in fashion and doing more dramatic themes. And then I'm like, man, I just love what I love, and like just accept it. I've finally started saying, unironically, that my favorite movie is RoboCop, which it is.
Yeah.
And I used to kind of hide behind that and hide behind the irony. I'm like, nah, man, I'm unadulterated now. I'm like, you know, I love what I love. And I think it's from bad babysitters making me watch brutally R-rated movies when I was 10 years old. So
That's great.
I thank them for that.
I like how you found your, I don't know, niche or genre, but you'll see the one time you do like a romantic quiet piece, it'll blow up like incredibly. You'll see.
Yeah, totally. Well, Kabir, thank you. It's really nice.
Yeah, of course.
You, man.
Thanks for being on the show.
You're doing the Lord's work, mate.
No, I appreciate it. And I want to thank you, Price. I also want to thank our producer, Shane. If you're in his neck of the woods, please try Shane's Spanish tortilla. But I think it's called tortilla. He's a very good cook. He's very conscious about health.
You should vac seal me some, send it over.
Exactly. We should do that. That's our show today. Please check out Price's website, and also the Quarantine Film Series is back, as you know, so keep it tuned here, and we'll be bringing you more great conversations, pithy, succinct conversations with incredible filmmakers. Everyone have a great day. We'll talk soon.